let's see. I write with Gabe. I'm the head writer at RX4 Films, and mostly screenplays. Working on my first novella on chapter 5. We were talking about that before we got started.
Yeah, we've written, I don't know how many scripts, 100 scripts. And just recently, once I started like streaming and doing the YouTube channel, like trying to find a YouTube channel or a streaming platform that works for Derrick too, to kind of promote our work because we work together. And one of the ideas, since Derrick is a writer, screenplays aren't necessarily a finished art form necessarily, but the film is the finished version of a screenplay.
Yeah.
So we talked about us taking some of Derrick's screenplays and turning them into novellas, which is like a 90,000 page book that you can read in a single sitting.
90,000 word.
90,000.
Don't obligate me to 90,000 pages.
90,000 words. So what we're talking about is taking like a screenplay idea, turning it into a novella. So that's 90,000 pages. That's about 6 hours. And then taking that 90,000 words and then having Derrick read that novella on YouTube. And it's 6 hours. So we were talking about, yes, I know that's lots of pages. I misspoke. But 90,000 words, it's about a 6 hour read if you were to sit down and read it. So what we're talking about is taking Derrick's most recent screenplay that actually we haven't even, it wasn't even for production for us. It was for a screenplay contest. What screenplay contest was it?
I submitted to multiple competitions.
But which one did you get into?
You're talking about Austin Film Festival.
Oh, it wasn't the Executioners, was it?
That one wasn't.
What did the Executioners place in?
Like a bunch of different ones, like Creative World and...
So this particular screenplay is his most recent one, and it's also won a couple awards. So the idea is to get it into a novella form where Derrick can read about 30 minutes of it on stream a week and put it onto YouTube. So like if it's one episode a week, maybe even 2 episodes a week, over time, you get to listen to the entire 6 hour book on stream or on YouTube. And I think that's what we're going to try to do. What we're kind of talking about doing, we're starting to flesh out. And I think, Derrick, you said you got 5 chapters done so far.
5 chapters in, yeah.
And we're assuming it'll probably be around 30 chapters or 40 chapters. Mm-hmm. What I was encouraging him to do is start reading the chapters on stream or online now, even before the book is finished, you know?
Yeah.
Does that sound fun, FeFeChan? Does that sound like something people would be interested in, like listening to a writer read his work on YouTube?
Or even with the notion of being like, hey, do you want to hear a writer's kind of first draft of a novel, as opposed to like a polished, finished product and it's an online audiobook, streaming audiobook kind of situation?
Well, yeah, because the stream itself is not necessarily the finished art form. The novella is. So really the stream is just kind of like talking about what, yeah. So as he reads it, he'll probably come to conclusions or make changes, or if people, you know, in the chat or in the comments have critiques of the work over time, it might change, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to chat right now, or I'm going to look for my notes. I made a bunch of notes. Oh, it was not in chat. It was in Google. I misspoke. Going to my Google Drive now and look at some of the questions that we were working on. Well, the first thing I would say is like, if you want to talk, maybe just like about, you know, we've worked with each other on other people's movie sets. We started working in New Orleans. In Southern Louisiana on large movie sets, $250,000, $500,000.
Large to us?
Yeah, it was not our movies either. We were just working. Derrick had started working. Anyway, But what we're doing now is generally like Derrick's the lead writer on the team for the films that I'm directing. And what I want to get into today is stuff that's not maybe specific to writing or filmmaking specifically. Just like, okay, so couple things I just want to get into some stuff. We got FeFeChan here, and we got some people trickling in. So I am Gabriel Saint. I'm a writer-director working out of Los Angeles, California. This is Derrick Denicola.
Hi.
He's a writer and actor working out of Los Angeles, California as well. Mm-hmm. And today we want to talk a little bit about just like creativity, creative process, and the connections between art forms. you know, and one of the things I could find like a connection through, and me and Derrick can talk more or less about it, but like for example, the rule of thirds is something that's very important in art, whether you're doing tattoos or painting or drawings. And I'm kind of leading a question here, but maybe Derrick, you can talk a little bit about how like a rule of thirds applies to screenwriting.
I mean, the first thing I think of is like, yeah, it's just 3 acts, you know? And so if you handle everything in thirds, you're handling everything an act at a time.
Right,
And-
because a screenplay or a film takes place in 3 acts: first act, a second act, and a third act.
Yeah.
Like a song takes place in a first verse, a second verse, and a third verse.
Right. And I've seen, you know, the little grids that pop up on like a LED or your screen whenever you're taking photos, and you can literally see the graph.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would translate necessarily to screenplays, because that seems to be more of a composition, and a screenplay seems to be more of like a linear.
I think it's just a linear composition. And just like you break an image, like you're saying, when you have the bars broken into like first groups in the middle frame. I'm trying to do it on the screen here,
Yeah.
and then the third frame. But you look at it the same way. If you visually looked at a script and you just like put it out on a wall, you'd be looking at the same way, where the first act is here, the second act is here, and the third act is here.
Oh, and you know what else too? We're talking like in stories, there's a lot of victories or false victories or defeats and false defeats. And if you were to use that same tic-tac-toe pattern and put like almost like a wave on,
Oh, sure.
you would notice that the
mean-
wave would,
I mean, you're basically now describing the Blake Snyder beat sheet.
yeah.
You know, in the Blake Snyder beat sheet, and some people on stream have seen me use it.
But it's just
For
fun
world
to
building.
superimpose it over a tool that it wasn't really meant for.
Well, yeah, because you know, screenwriting isn't meant to like look at the words and appreciate the way they're laid out compositionally like that. You're supposed to just kind of like enjoy the story. But there is a composition to every single film that we've ever written, every film ever written, and it's just like you find balance of a rule of third in design of something in a visual medium. I think screenplays naturally fall into that. And not only that, it's like they fall in. It's not like, hey, I can decide that a story is in 3 parts. Human interpretation of a story is in 3 parts. If you just tell a story and you don't tell the first part, the audience is going to say, hey,
Yeah.
you left out the first part. Or if you don't tell them the ending, they're going to be like, hey, you left out the ending. They're not going to say, this is a finished story. They're going to say, hey, in order for it to be a story, I need all 3 parts.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you're eager to share a story, like let's say at a dinner, and you just blurt out the best part because you just couldn't wait to get to it, and you realized that it didn't land for everybody else as hard as it landed for you whenever that story was.
Because you didn't
unfolded
tell the
for you.
first 2 parts?
Because you didn't tell the first 2 parts. Like, it's the most basic thing, and you say it to somebody, and they go, well, duh. But people miss out on it all the time. It's like, does it have a beginning and a middle and an end?
Well, not only that, but right when we started writing together, a lot of the stories that you would bring, like the screenplays, like a decade ago or something that we would look at, I would always say, Derrick, I feel like this is just a first act for 90 pages. Instead of 3 parts, it's just 1 part that's really long.
Yeah.
FeFeChan said, I've learned that the hard way, being ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
Impact is important. Yeah, and it's funny, like you get excited about the end of the story and you tell the end first, and then you've ruined it because they didn't get the setup. You got to tell them where the story takes place, who's the character, a little fun and games, and then hit them with the final piece.
Well, you can learn a lot from listening to somebody's dinner conversation and figuring out why something doesn't work. Like there is a moment where somebody will say, that doesn't make sense because I didn't tell you, and then they'll go back and it's like, oh,
Well,
God.
the proof is that rule of thirds isn't something that you use to create necessarily. It's a way that humans instinctually digest things in 3 parts. So you just need to be aware of that, because whether you're consciously breaking things into 3 parts, the audience always is. If it's a song, if it's a painting, if it's a tattoo, if it's a screenplay or a movie, your audience will always break it into 3 parts.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something that, like young writers, when we work with new writers here, we talk to new writers where they're always like, well, maybe I don't follow the regular screenplay format or whether, and it's like, well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
The audience is going to apply that to your film anyway and to your story anyway. So you better, if you want to have control or if you want to be intentional with how your audience feels, like you better work within the framework of understanding how they're going to digest it.
Yeah, because if you don't, because your process can be whatever you want it to be, but the end result's always going to be an amalgamation of the same. People trying to figure out who these people are, what they want, how do they get it, and is it the thing that are they getting the thing that they needed, or are they getting the thing that they wanted? It's kind of like where the end of stories normally.
And that's all anybody is there to see. Like
Yeah.
when you break it down to the bare mechanics, what people are there to see when it comes to like a story is, who is this person? Where are they from? What do they want? Do they get it?
Yeah, the number one thing that I ask whenever I'm feeling stuck is, what does this character want? It literally gets me out of every jam, every little block. You have to know where you're going and what you want.
And I've talked to Derrick a little bit about this, like, you know, kind of moving into a different subject a little bit is like how it all kind of applies together. Like I was at the top of some streams talking to some filmmakers on stream who've joined, and I've showed them films, and there's been a spattering of filmmakers that have joined the stream, but a majority of the people here on stream are gamers, or they kind of came into enjoying streaming by way of gaming. And a lot of what people were asking for in the chat from Human Robot and Asteyu, who aren't here in the chat today, but they kept asking about world building. And it took me a little while. You heard me talk about that, where I didn't understand quite what world building meant from a video game standpoint, but it's basically just directing and screenwriting for films, where we sat on screen and just broke down a video game in the exact same way that you break down a film, you know, where we were like, where is it located? Who is the main character? And then just kind of followed, not literally, like literally used a Blake Snyder beat sheet to start the video game.
Yeah, and world building is fun because it's nearly endless. Because with world building, you get to ask that question, well, if this is true, what else is true? And you can literally do that with everything. Well, if nobody has legs, what do chairs look like? You know, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And you could world build all day. It's so fun.
Yeah, and not only that, but that could be fun to do in a chat, like sometime, or doing the school. I'm like, we maybe not now, but maybe one day is like, instead of creating a world, is like taking a world that exists. For example, like taking a video game that's newly released that people enjoy, and like taking it apart from the point of view of a screenwriter, taking it from the point of view of a director. And one of the things we've talked about in the chat was like tier lists of a protagonist from horror film video games, and like looking at each character who leads a horror film video game and like breaking down each character and ranking them on how strong we think the character is designed.
Yeah, that would be fun. I would like to, I would watch that, is all I'm saying.
Okay, so let me take a look. I got a list of things that we were kind of, I wanted to touch on a little bit, but I also just want to chat a little bit. And I don't want to get too long-winded, because every time I end up doing one of these streams, it takes us 3 hours to tier list something. I edit it down, and it's still an hour and a half long on YouTube too. So like some of it could be like a question maybe is like how do you work? Like what is the most comfortable way? Like if an artist sits down and they set up their paints and they get to painting, or if you know, a filmmaker has a movie crew as a writer, when you kind of really are like, hey, this is why I write, because I like to sit down and have this kind of moment.
Yeah.
Like not only like that, but like what people did you learn from to find that kind of moment, you know?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Honestly, it's a little isolating on purpose, intentionally. Like I have the noise canceling headphones. I have a bunch of like drinks by my side, so I don't have to keep getting up and going to the refrigerator. And I curate a good playlist for the tone of the project that I'm working on.
Okay, so step back. So what was the first thing that you said?
Oh, noise canceling headphones?
Okay, so tell me a little bit about each thing. So why do you use the noise canceling headphones? Where did you learn that? What are you listening to?
It's
Like just
yeah, yeah. It's more like just preventing distraction. Like I found that without them, I'll get up and I'll go check out squealing tires or a dog barking outside the window. Like if I give my mind a reason to get up and get away from the work, I most likely will. So it's really like doling myself to the senses or the sensory activations of the outside world.
and
So I stay focused on mine.
I bet you everybody
Yeah.
understands that. Like painters are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think
I forget where I picked this up, but if I don't make a playlist specifically for a project, or if I don't have time to, I'll always go to binaural beats.
is that what you're listening to? Binaural beats?
Yeah, ambient white noise that kind of pulsates different frequencies in each ear. It's really great with headphones.
FeFeChan in the chat says she does the same thing, that she can't sit still
Yeah,
without headphones.
yeah.
FeFeChan, you wear headphones when you're tattooing or only when you're doing art at home, I wonder? So you said you listen to binaural beats. Why binaural beats works better for you than like regular music?
Usually music with lyrics, I'll have a tendency to start paying attention to the lyrics, or they'll start finding ways into my dialogue, which I don't want to do unless it's, and like I said, unless it's thematic, unless it like fits what I'm actually.
Dude, I'm the same way. Sometimes not even working, but just like listening to too much music with lyrics, or listening to music that's too catchy.
Yeah.
Like when I'm not listening to the music anymore, I still find it distracting me.
This might make me sound like a sociopath, but sometimes I put on the sound of a cabin of a 747, just the flight cabin white noise.
Yeah, that would put me to sleep.
Yeah, it kind of does that too. But
That's what you listen to while you're writing?
I have before. I'll pick different things every time, really. Sometimes I'll listen to Carla Bruni, who is like a really amazing French pop artist, but I don't speak any French. And so I can actually listen to music with lyrics without getting distracted by them, because I know I won't learn French in this.
But the idea is, first off, you put on some isolating headphones to kind of not be distracted.
Yeah.
Then you make sure that when you're isolating yourself that you're not putting more distraction in your ears. So maybe you're not listening to a podcast, or you're not listening to like pop music that you can sing along with.
Right.
You're listening to things that can intentionally fade into the background, like binaural beats, or like you said, a singer that speaks in another language. So your brain isn't trying to understand it, and you can still focus on writing, but also a little bit of that keeps your brain distracted. Yeah. And the way my brain works is like, I'm similar like that, but like I will need a voice sometimes chatting in the background, because sometimes I'll leave a TV running on something like a YouTuber that's just talking about fashion for an hour and a half, because that little bit of voice that's kind of distracting in the background gives me something to actively fight against.
Oh.
Like that active ignoring that thing puts me in super focus. And sometimes and some of that has to do with my ear sensitivity issues, but like if there's nothing happening, my ears are squealing and I can't wear headphones.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I found works for me is like a little bit of chatter in the background that I can actively ignore, and that puts me in a super focus mode. But I mean, what's cool is that
Workaround.
yeah, that everybody has kind of maybe like different ways.
To me, like that sounds like a nightmare. And be like, I don't have that kind of discipline. Like, somebody's been talking for a half hour. What do you want me?
You know, and at that point, I'm like angeredly in focus mode. FeFeChan says, if I'm not talking to the client, yes, she wears headphones while she's tattooing. She says if she has something to listen to without wanting to turn around and watching on the TV, she might have a TV running while she's working. At home drawing, I have to have something engaging to listen to, like a podcast. If you're tattooing FeFeChan at work and you're listening to something, when Derrick described working on like listening to things without lyrics or listening to things like binaural beats, do you ever find yourself listening to things like that, or do you find yourself always listening to engaging content? I'm talking to FeFeChan. Let's go a little bit more. You can scoot the other way. My back hurts. That lighting wasn't doing me any favors. I want to show that. If you want to see though, look how, if you can see behind us, we're in a beautiful pool area here. at a rooftop in Los Angeles. It's pretty cool. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so let me kind of go back to what we were talking about. Okay, so first you said the first thing you did was, first thing in the step was, so let me ask you this. How did you find that? What made you do that? Did you see somebody else using headphones when they were right? Is it just a modern technology that it's just people do it now, or
I was just getting distracted so much that I was distracting myself frequently enough that I knew that I was able to pick up on a pattern of it. It was like, hey, Derrick, every time you get to the end of like a scene, it's almost like you have to get up and go look out the window or do a lap around.
But you said you just decided headphones. You don't have any writer friends, or you haven't heard of other people using headphones that way?
You know, my friend Chelsea is a playwright. She didn't say noise canceling headphones, but she was like, I can't write with noise. I can only write in quiet. And I was just thinking about how, oh yeah, I need to think about what kind of atmosphere I need to create for myself. And I think total quiet would kind of freak me out, but what's something that doesn't disturb me? And I just thought back to college, and I don't know where it started, but that's how I used to study.
With the headphones on?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, and then what would you say the second part of that?
Lots of liquids, so I don't have to keep getting up and going to the fridge.
What kind of liquids?
Okay, so one is always flask of water.
Always stay hydrated, y'all.
Two,
Y'all know I preach that.
two is a iced, decaffeinated, fruit-flavored tea.
Yeah, hold on. Before we move on, FeFeChan says
Yeah.
she can tune things out that aren't engaging, like noise music. So now I'm reading for her. She says, now I tend to keep things that engage me on. Since I draw, I'm not forming sentences and words like a writer, she says. So it doesn't bother me to have talking going on. If I don't have the auditory stimuli, then I start looking around and getting distracted. Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. That the fact that she's focusing on images instead of words, that like actively listening to a podcast that is engaging isn't a distraction in a negative way.
Yeah.
And only that's pretty cool that she has an art form that she can like listen to a podcast and do her paintings at the same time. Is pretty rad.
That is pretty rad, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's get back into this. Liquids. Same thing, FeFeChan. I guess it's probably true for everybody, you know.
And the third one's coffee.
So what it start again?
So ice water.
Ice water, stay hydrated. Why ice water instead of just room temperature water?
I like the shot up cold.
Do you really?
Refreshing. Yeah, I do.
Fun.
And then a decaffeinated flavored tea, which usually for me would be like a black cherry. Yeah. And then a coffee, because the coffee will be caffeinated. I don't want to overdo it with the tea.
Okay, so you'd get a water, a decaffeinated tea, and a caffeinated coffee.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
I
It's
know,
interesting though.
But it keeps me at the desk.
I mean, I can't say much. I always have a half calf coffee and a protein smoothie, and usually I also have a bottle of water. Half calf for caffeine, smoothie for kind of like a breakfast, keep my energy up, and then water to stay hydrated.
comes from is like I noticed like I would distract myself with like little snacks, and over the course of the day they would start to like really add up, and I was like, I can't keep doing this, but I can satiate that like little hit of dopamine that you get from
So in
rewarding yourself.
your normal process, you were snacking,
Yeah.
and you noticed that it was making you unhealthy.
Yeah.
So you had to curb your process.
I had to curb the little like chocolate nibs and stuff that I would give myself for like finishing a scene with, satiate it with just like a flavored tea or coffee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
FeFeChan says she dual wields a caffeine drink and a flavored water.
Yeah.
Can't drink it plain. What kind of flavored water? Like in a bottle, you put some flavor in a bottle of water? And what kind of caffeine drink? You talking Monster Energy, or are you talking old-fashioned coffee?
I feel like she's gonna say Celsius. I don't know you, FeFeChan.
She's a gamer. She's going to say Monster Energy.
Monster?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, my money's on Celsius.
I'm
but
just joking. I don't know.
I'll have to.
I'm old, so how would I know? Okay, so
FeFeChan was old too. She'd be doing like Four Loko. That's what-
Four Loko. I'm gonna drink a couple Four Locos before work, y'all. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like I said, as strange it is as all art forms are so different and so disconnected. Like we're just talking about how do you get started, and like it's the same thing that every artist does. So first thing you said was the headphones. Second thing you said was the liquids. What was the third thing?
Did I have a
Or maybe you did. I
third
don't know.
thing? I don't think I had a third
And
thing.
then the third thing is just get to writing, I guess.
Yeah, the it's almost like because the computer is also the thing that distracts me the most, but it's where I do my work. So it's really about like opening up the project file and covering my screen and my icons with my reference material and my writing page. And so I split my screen in half, and I have my chat GPT for like any sort of like quick internet search reference stuff. I have my notes and my outline kind of behind everything. And then on my right side of my screen, my right half of my screen, I have my final draft open.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is once you have your headphones on, you've got your liquids ready, you start working, you break down your canvas or your screen into two parts. On the right part is where you're working, and on the left part is where you're referencing. So if I'm, connecting that to FeFeChan here, who says, by the way, that she drinks a
Sonic Cherry Limeade.
powder packet, Sonic Cherry Limeade powder packet in her, and then she drinks Red Bull Limeade
Yeah,
mixed.
yeah.
Wow,
You're a dangerous person. You're a dangerous person.
what a tattoo artist.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I'm hearing is like if you're looking at like FeFeChan's perspective and my perspective maybe as a painter, or it's like we're just looking at FeFeChan because she's in the chat. She sits down, she puts her headphones on, she puts her drinks to the side, and she looks at the reference that she's about to tattoo, and then she tattoos it onto her client, which is basically the exact same process that you're describing. And not only that, but I mean, aside from the headphones, like I have the exact same process. And that's
I was
gonna
gonna say like, cause you're interesting because you work through different mediums. So, like, what is your process, and how is it different from like when you're about to paint something versus whenever you write something versus whenever you're making music? Because those are all very different processes that require some sort of like ritual beforehand, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think part of what we're talking about here is that I've noticed, because I'm working in so many mediums, is that they're all the same medium. Not only that, but the more I've realized that like it's all the same. It's like there's little different tweaks you have to do, like FeFeChan pointed at. Like if I'm working on words, if I'm writing, I don't want the chatter of a voice in the background. But if I'm painting, like FeFeChan says, that it's an image-based thing, I do want those words in the background. And I think vice versa. Sometimes when I'm writing, I might put some cartoons on the TV and mute it. Just so if I do kind of start to walk and allow myself to get distracted, I'm staring at something that's not going to hold my attention or take my attention. It's just like you're saying, it's like a binaural beat, except for my eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think the process is the same. It just depends on like, you have to narrow it down to whatever your medium is, and then work from there. But I think you're okay. Yeah, you do what you got to do. Yeah. Don't worry about us.
But what about like with music? Because you're about to create it, so you're not like listening to it.
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of the two, because sometimes like I will leave something with words playing on the TV while I'm working on music. If I'm listening to something back, like lyrics that I've just recorded, I've already got everything muted because I have to mute everything to record vocals. So you know what I mean? So right before I record vocals, I'm turning everything off, not just to not distract me, but so that we don't hear it in the microphone. And also every electronic thing that's running might add a little hum. But there are times where I just open up a song that I was working on yesterday and I have TV playing and I can hear a song with lyrics on it and like a YouTube video essay talking in the background, where I have to stop the essay, where kind of what FeFeChan was pointing at and you were talking about is like, you can't listen to words and write words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I battle that too. But the idea of like, you know what I mean? If I feel like I'm going to sit here and lock myself in a room and drink a cup of coffee and work on some art, I also, like I'm seeing FeFeChan say here where she says, have to turn off notifications on my iPad when I draw, or next thing I know, I'm on Instagram for an hour. Like I'm the same way. I don't want to look at my phone. I don't want to look at it. You know what I mean? I literally put it in the other side of the room, where I don't want to I want to get into, and you've heard me talk about this before, and you're kind of maybe similar. I want to get into like a fugue state.
The flow state.
Yeah, I want to start creating in a way where I kind of get lost in the sauce, and I turn around an hour later, and I'm like, oh, what do I have to show for the hour I just kind of was
Channeling.
in the zone? You know what I mean? And like everyone kind of is acknowledging here between you and FeFeChan is that like you know, if you're writing words, I don't want to be distracted by words. And if I'm writing music, I don't want to be distracted by music. So like if you're creating a particular art form, maybe something we're getting to is like, you might not want to be digesting that in real time while you're creating it. So like if you're writing, you know, words, you want to listen to words. If you're writing music, you probably don't want music to be playing in the background. If you're making a movie, you might not want another movie playing in the background too.
But what's interesting is like you need to have done that beforehand though. Like if you're gonna, for me, if I'm gonna write something out of a typical genre that I write, then I need to go and watch a bunch of movies that are out that genre.
Right, but you're kind of
talking.
talking, it's pre-writing.
It's pre-writing.
Right, yeah. So if I want to write a certain kind of song, I'm going to go listen to a bunch of those kind of songs. If I want to write a movie a certain way, I might go watch a bunch of those movies. Or if you're going to write a script, you might go read a bunch of scripts. But when it comes time to writing your script, I always like to talk about it like kung fu or karate. You shouldn't have to be thinking of all the karate when it comes time to do it.
Yeah.
You've already filled your head with it. You kind of let it all go, and you hope that it just kind of flows out of you.
Because if you are, you're already dead.
Yeah, you already got your ass whooped?
Yeah.
FeFeChan says, a flow state is awesome. She's like, my 4-hour tattoo flew by today since I was in a good conversation with the client and really getting the shit done. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of what it is, you know. And a lot of what I kind of want to get to the point of here with some of these conversations is that being an artist is kind of true in a universal fashion in certain ways. And you know, like I didn't really know what we were going to talk about. I have about 20 questions here to ask you, and we didn't get to any of them. You know, just when you started describing the way you sat down to get to work, and then we just took a second to pause and kind of break down what it took to hop into work. It just applies to everything, whether we're painting or whether we're doing tattoos. And I think that's kind of like what we're trying to do here with these conversations, you know, and kind of take this as a template or as a reference. Like when we sit down and we talk to, let's say, hopefully Shelley Hennig in the future, and she's an actor, like when she tells us how she gets into her flow state, you know, I wonder if it's the same story. She's like, well, first I have to have my liquids, and then I have to sit down, and then I have to have my prep and my performance. You know what I mean? And I'm excited to see how some of these conversations. And FeFeChan, I appreciate you hanging out here. We have a very limited time here before we have to shut down our meeting, so we're going to stop the conversation here, and then we're going to finish out our day. But thank you, Derrick, for coming and having the conversation. FeFeChan says, I love this. It's super interesting stuff that I don't necessarily think about, but it's neat to know. Yeah. Well, FeFeChan, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with us. It makes it a lot more worthwhile when we have people here chatting with us. You've heard me say that a million times. And FeFeChan, I bet you know what I'm about to say, don't you? I'm going to say, Derrick might not know. This is his first experience here on the, but if you're having a bad day, or you're having some conflict with your family or your friends, or you're having problems with a creative block, or you haven't got your tea yet, or what's going on, but if you're having a bad time, or you're having some kind of problems in your life that you need to express in a way that you need to take it out, you can take it out on a script. You can write a script about the problems you're having in your life. You can write music about it. You can design tattoos about it. But the main thing I want to focus on when I get to the end of one of these shows is express the fact that you should take it out on art, and you should not take it out on yourself. And that's what I'm gonna say, guys. Take it out on art. Don't take it out on yourself. And look, FeFeChan in the chat has it set up where if you write quote number 2, there's quotes from Gabriel, and it says, take it out on art.
Oh, nice.
Oh, speaking of, while we're here, check this out. Derrick is in the chat, but if I go !gamble, and then the amount I want to gamble, she set up a little game. Oh, I just lost 50 points. You can you can gamble in the chat. All right, so guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on the Twitch, please follow. I'm a director, writer, filmmaker working out of Los Angeles, California. I'd appreciate it if you went and checked out some of my music, checked out some of my films, checked out some of my artwork. Derrick is the writer on all the feature films, so if you could check him out. So, Derrick, if you want to tell them a little bit about where they can find some of our work, or some of your work specifically as well.
Sure. Yeah. We have Ghostlight on Prime Video and Tubi. Actually, Tubi pays us better.
Tell them.
I'm look at Tubi TV actually pays us a little bit better. And so check out Gabriel Saint's Ghostlight, and also distribution changed the title on us. What is it? American Psychopath now?
American Serial Killer.
American Serial Killer.
What about your work? Like, just to rattle off real quick about where maybe we can see you as an actor, or see your experience and on IMDb, just or your Instagram page, or anything like that.
I'm at Derrick Denicola, DerrickDenicola, on Instagram.
What's your name on Twitch?
Oh, Rick Red 85.
That's Derrick backwards, and then what's your name on the Discord?
The anagram. That's a little mix.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Derrick backwards.
Yeah. And
What are you on the Discord?
what am I on the Discord? Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. I'm sorry, everyone.
It's okay. D-Rock on the Discord.
D-Rock. Yeah, perfect.
So he's either Derrick Denicola, he's D-Rock, or he's Derrick spelled backwards.
Or Rick Red 85.
You
Yeah, I should really aim for consistency.
you gotta love that consistency.
All right. Well, that's what it is.
All right, FeFeChan. So I think we're gonna get out of here. I appreciate you hanging out and participating. It's sure nice to have you, man. I was messaging you in the Discord because I hadn't seen you in a couple days. But I'll be streaming again this evening, so I'll see you tonight. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you later.